3, 2, 1. Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back to the Relistenables. Again, Trevor Pfister, Silent P coming in, helping me out. Myself, as always, Steven Moustaris. Before we even get into this, thanks for letting us come to your house and do this. I think this looks amazing.
Welcome to the wall.
This shit looks amazing. It's probably the coolest set we've had yet.
Appreciate
and hopefully we can use it again. But yeah, today this is one of the more personal ones, and I literally would not have done this. We've had this on the back burner for a while, but it's honestly one of the more personal ones we've ever done, especially for you and I as a friend and whatnot. So today we decided to go with a 2008 classic released on September 19th of 2008, Only by the Night by none other than Kings of Leon. And again, like Trevor did with Faces, thank you for bringing the vinyl. So you guys got the vision and whatnot. So dude, there's so many places we can start off. This is a little different than we're used to. It's the first rock one we've done.
Yeah.
So the last couple have been rap. So it's a lot more breaking down lyrics and whatnot. This one it's 11 songs. I mean, there's a 12th song. It's a bonus track on Apple Music and on Target. And then there's actually a really cool Japanese bonus version that has 2 extra songs that we're not going to break down. But it's Beneath the Surface and The Bucket, which is a remix by a DJ, which The Bucket was on because of the time. So, but real quick, I think that we should probably, before we get crazy into this album, I think we should probably kind of give some people a little rundown on Kings of Leon, just for who they are. And just so everybody knows, this album, Only by the Night, this was definitely the first, like introduction for you and I to Kings of Leon. And ever since, we've been diehard fans. And I honestly, ever since we listened to it in 2008, pretty much our freshman year. Right. It was that summer going into freshman year. We've been, like I said, diehard fans. And luckily we got to go see a concert for him and whatnot just a couple years ago for a different album, which we won't talk about. But
I will say, though, which for me, that concert was such a long time coming for me. I think I told you these stories before, but like the first time I was supposed to go see them in Columbus, I was supposed to go see it with my friend Caleb from college. He even bought the tickets, and if you see this, Caleb, dude, I'm so sorry, but I had a finals to take the literally.
It's more important at the time.
7 a.m. the next morning, I had to take an exam, so I was either gonna go to this concert and fail the exam or fail the exam and not go to the concert.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Because so that was my first time. Supposed to go, didn't end up going because I had an exam, and my friend didn't even end up going.
Ooh.
So he had tickets,
he probably didn't want to go along.
Right, and he didn't go, and I felt terrible. And then the second time, I was supposed to go see them again in Columbus. My mom bought me tickets. That was when they had their tour bus accident.
Yeah.
And they canceled that show, so I didn't get to go see them then. And then a few years later was when I believe you texted me, or one of us texted one of you. I can't remember how it went. But then we went and seen him at Blossom with Rick, and then
I remember texting you because my buddy Ricardo. Shouts out to Ricardo. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, but him and I, especially you and I too. It's like I remember Rick wanted to go super bad, and I was like, okay, I'm definitely down. We're going for sure. But I was like, there's only one thing. Trevor's got to go with me because it's just like it's a nostalgia thing for you and I.
Oh gosh. Dude,
it's like if I would have found Mac Miller with you, like I had to go see it with you. You know what I'm saying? But,
which I've never been able to.
Which luckily I got, not to bring that up. So I'm sorry, it's a whole different thing.
No,
but
you're fine.
I did. Luckily, I got to see Mac. So
I did not, unfortunately.
I'm sorry, but
no, it's all right.
Yeah, but dude, seriously, to this day, my favorite concert ever was Kings of Leon. They put on the greatest show. We know all their hits, like literally more than their hits, I should say. All of their songs.
Another thing, sorry to cut you off,
no,
but another thing that was just so awesome about the concert when we went was like how it almost felt like you put a vinyl on a record player and just, you know what I'm saying, but you got a live edition of it. And I was like, I've never been to a concert other than recently I went to a Pat Benatar concert. She was really sweet live. But I'm saying like live concert-wise, Kings of Leon like blew it out of the water for me. Like it was, like I said, it was like listening to a live vinyl.
It might have even been better. I'm not even lying. Like not even trying to sound funny because of this pod or whatever, but like because I mean I've seen my fair share, especially of rock. I got to see Blink-182 when I got to see a bunch of Sum 41, all these a lot of my favorite, like I wouldn't necessarily say rock, but like alternative or like punk and. I mean, I just didn't think they sound as good. Like, I would say, like, Travis Barker was really cool to see because his drumming and whatnot. So, like, that was perfect.
Neat.
But the vocals, and that's what we'll get into because these guys, man, they're just so talented, dude. But just so everybody knows, we'll get into this real quick. Just a little background on Kings of Leon. Like, so they were formed in Nashville, Tennessee in 1999, and it's three brothers: Caleb, who is lead vocals and rhythm guitar, which he's the front man; Nathan, who's the drummer, who is a sick drummer, and they all do. By the way, they all do backup vocals, just so you guys know. And then Jared as well, who's the bass player and keyboards. And then they also, along with their cousin Matthew, and they're the Follow Wills. That's their last name. They all have the same last name, and he's also the lead guitar and keyboards. So, I'm just trying to think of where we could start with this album, because this album means so much to us. You know what I'm saying? And I know we probably only listen. We're really going to be diving deep into the 11-song True track that dropped in 2008. And I guess we can start off, not to like go too deep into the song, but our introduction, I'll never forget. And if you have a different like little thought of it, you can let me know. But I remember us 8th grade freshman year, which is Jesus. That's 14 years ago. There's 2008, 14 years ago.
Right.
I remember you and I used to go on a lot of trips with my mom. And,
to the drive-ins.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm happy we have the same thought. Okay.
Same memory, yep.
And she had this boyfriend, Marty, that was around at the time, who we just actually, it's funny how this
Shout
is coming
out, Marty.
back. It's funny how this is coming back. We just talked about this in the gym about him. But my mom's so big on music. I will honestly shout out to my mother. Shouts out to Sherry Moustaris. She's literally the reason that I got real good into music, and I feel like I love music so much because she's always been the biggest fan I've ever met. She's so smart when it comes to music, especially jamming Sublime, like everybody. You remember all the funny ones she used to play nonstop. But Kings of Leon came on the radio, and I'll never forget, you and I both looked at each other like, what is this?
What is this noise?
And it was You Somebody. And it was like,
what is this noise?
And it was the second single that got released for this album, which the first one was Sex on Fire. But I don't know how we missed that one. I really don't know.
I don't either.
Because we'll go into it. It's technically more of a mainstream song. It kind of was bigger or whatever. But You Somebody just has a special place in my heart. And I'm sure with you.
Oh, yeah.
It's our first time
hearing them.
Truly listening to Kings of Leon. Because we'll get into it as well. I have some fun facts that I was telling you yesterday about. There's a couple movies and shows that this couple songs were in way before this. And I shouldn't say way before, but a couple years. So, but Only by the Night, it's their fourth album. Their fourth studio, like, official album. They have a couple, like, 5-song, like, mixtapes and whatever. But this is their fourth major album. And the fun fact about this is that as soon as they got done with Because of the Times, which came out a year before, they were instantly just started writing for this album. And you can kind of tell they're starting to get into the rhythm of things. They're finally starting to, like, really break out of their shells. And
they were starting to have hiccups, though. I was reading an artist that they were, after, I think it was... what was the one right before this?
Because of the Times.
Or Because of the Times.
Yeah, because we'll list this off real quick too. Not to interrupt you, but Youth and Young Manhood came out July 7th of 2003, 4 years after they started, and then in 2004 came out Aha Shake Heartbreak, and then they took a 3-year break and did Because of the Times because they weren't selling very well. You know, they coming out of Tennessee, like, there's a lot of pressure on you to become a good band, especially, like, because they're not that country. Like, they started off like a country garage band, and then slowly started to, like, find their alternative sound. Right. So, yeah, that's why they took that break there after Aha Shake Heartbreak for a couple years, because they just weren't believing in each other. And then Because of the Times came out, and that's when they started really, like, kind of, like, focusing on each other. And then actually this album is really where they started, like, kind of falling apart within themselves, which we'll get into, because it's just the mainstream they finally got, you know, the mainstream success that they finally had. But, so let's dive into this real quick. We've probably listened to this, at least for me, I always say this, I've probably re-listened to this album every week maybe ever since 2008, but when we got together and decided to do this about a week and a half ago, I'm probably over-under is 12 times. I probably listened to it from start to finish, which it's a short album.
It's not very long.
1 to 11 is only 42 minutes and 55 seconds, just under 43 minutes, which makes this the shortest album we've done yet in here at the Relistenables. But, like, re-listening to this, I always ask this is my favorite question, because, you know, when we listened to this in 08, Clearly You Somebody, Sex on Fire, like, those songs stick out. Like, re-listening to it again, even though for you and I, it's kind of not easy. It's not fair to kind of say because we know these songs like the back of our hands. But what songs kind of like not necessarily like stuck out, but what kind of caught your ear a little bit different than maybe it has before? Because I've had a couple.
For me, it was Notion, and I actually texted you right when it started playing the other day.
Right after the gym, man. I'll never forget it. Yeah.
I came home and I started listening to it on the vinyl, and Notion came on, and like. to be honest with you, Notion was like never one of my top songs on this album.
I agree.
And for some reason, this week it just hit a little different, and I'm like, this is probably one of my new favorite songs off this album.
We're gonna be singing a lot, by the way, too. But this is the thing that sucks. We can't put the audio in there.
Right.
But so it's cool to find out because I clearly do a lot of deep diving on here. I want to make sure it's informative and whatnot. But and for myself, I learn a little bit more. And I'm happy you brought up Notion because it's literally, when I looked it up and everything, and when you re-listen to the lyrics, clearly it makes more sense. But this is an attack kind of like for them to stick up for themselves against people that hate on them. Like, which you can kind of...
Because they got called... I mean, when this album dropped and they had those 2 big singles, they got called sellouts.
Yep.
Because they just happened to make 2 songs that hit the radio.
100%.
Like... I don't know about you, but like any band or anything like that, like I know there are people, there are artists out there that don't want to hit the mainstream. They just enjoy making the music.
Yeah,
but like
100%.
For them, they were trying to make it big.
Yeah,
so
that's
like,
everybody's goal.
What the heck are you mad about? What?
Yeah.
I mean, they made 2 great songs and they hit the radio waves.
And honestly, after we dive into it and kind of get the charting and everything, it's actually like 5 pretty big songs to make it in the top 50, which honestly I was kind of shocked on which 5 they were, but we'll get into it a little bit more when we come around it. So, Notion's huge. We'll definitely be diving into it a little bit more, but like especially numbers and stuff. But like maybe any other ones like just for you, because I know there's only 11 songs, so it's a little tough. It's not like we're doing an 18-track like album
so
like
Mac. The set, of course, for me, I actually, as big as a Kings of Leon fan as I am, I actually went to Target, bought this album, like bought the vinyl, and found out there was a new song on it, Frontier City.
Yeah, phenomenal.
And just because I haven't really heard it all that much before, Frontier City's become a very... I love it. I mean, it's like... It fits perfectly with the album, but it was like... It's like I got to listen to a whole new album because it was like I got to the end and it was like this new song and I'm like, whoa, there's more.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I'm saying? So it was like...
Which I'm happy you bring that up, actually, because we can kind of break that down, too. Because in 2008, there's no Apple Music. We were like legally, quote-unquote, legally streaming or downloading songs off of, Dat Piff, all these different ones. But, like at the time, we didn't have the Apple Music where we had just everything on our phone. And, like, CDs at the time, CDs are always tough. Not many people buy CDs, so it was a Target exclusive and Apple Music. Now, I guess it's exclusive. But.
Okay, so, and I truly don't know this. So, like, back in 2008, Target had an exclusive CD?
Yeah, 100%, yeah. Target, all right, by the way, I didn't know this because my mom was so big at taking me to Kmart. I said this on a couple of them because we do a lot of rap ones that have a lot of cuss words. But my mom always took me to Kmart. And after Kmart closed in whatever 2011 or whatever, but the only reason she took me there was because they only had edited version of songs, like the albums. So my mom was like, "Oh, I don't want you listening to all these like."
That's how Walmart was for
like,
a while.
Eminem, 50, all these guys that I grew up on, Fab, Jay-Z, Nas, all these people that I grew up on, like cussing, dropping a bunch of words we shouldn't be saying in school. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I was already had like a pretty bad attitude and a dirty mouth and whatever. So like my mom was trying to avoid this, which. Like, like the private school kids, you always think, oh, let's send them to the private school to make sure they're good, but they turn out to be the biggest druggies and whatever So it's kind of how it worked with the music for myself against my mom. But yeah, to learn this, because every time I look up an album, Target always has some exclusive version. And I didn't know this back in the day. So yeah, I'm happy you bring that up, because Frontier City, which is the bonus track we're talking, I probably first time heard that maybe 2014, 2013 when I did the deep dive on it, like when I was real big into Kings of Leon, which we got.
Dude, for me it was like the last, it probably was in the last 2 years I found out.
Oh yeah. Well, there's so many songs like that.
From 2008, dude. I didn't find out until like probably 2020.
And honestly, it's even funny. They actually, when I was just playing it, when I was pulling up, I actually had to find it on a different version on Apple Music. They actually had it as like a single version, which, as funny as it is, it was actually released as a single. Like, because to be released as a single, it's like it's a private release basically. Like, it's still on the album, which most singles are, but like you'll find, like when I read these off, I'll read them off now, but the 6 singles that came out, they all came out pretty much after the album. So it's a re-release basically, and it's just that's how they base the numbers off. So the 6 songs, the first one they released, like I said, on September 15th of 2008, right before, literally 4 days before the album. And this was all on their website, by the way. I looked all this up. The only way you could have got any of this was on their website, and at that time, nobody's looking at websites really like that. So Sex on Fire, which takes over the world.
Because like I I didn't. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
But like I didn't really like get into the details of things until I got older.
Yeah, 100%.
So like it wasn't until like college and stuff where I like kind of started diving into like my favorite artists, movies, athletes, things of that nature. Because I don't know, when I was younger, I was never really invested in like how things were made, like what's the lyrics mean in this song. So like, dude, it wasn't until like I was probably 20, 21 in college where I finally like listened to the album again, probably for the 500th time.
Yeah.
But then I started realizing like, whoa, these songs got like a story to them. This has got like an eerie feeling to it. Like the one song where it talks about, you know, walking through a spooky town, walk right this way, the phone lines are down. Yeah, it's just like so eerie and like it. Yeah.
Well, they have our back a little bit. In 2008, we're 15 years old. You know, actually, we're not even 15 yet. I think I'm 14 at this time because I turned 15 in December at this time. So I'm a couple months away from being, 15 officially.
Yeah, I was
born in '93, so we're both 14. So not to be funny. It's a lot of mainstream stuff we're big into, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we did go crazy, and I remember literally after we heard it that weekend, went and bought the albums and stuff, so I remember we both would talk about songs, and like clearly, like we talked about, Sex on Fire, You Somebody, Manhattan always grew with You and I, but like, yeah, so I mean, not to have our back or at all, but like, it's different. When you're 15, you haven't lived life as much, your brain's not fully developed, you don't really like, you honestly don't even care what these people are saying, you're just like, I just like vibing.
Yeah.
And then, like the DMX song, he always says, like, I know you're listening, but like you got to actually hear it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you got to actually hear it and actually like break it down. And that's why I like redoing this now when we're 28 years old. About to be 30 in a couple years. So we're like fully in tune with ourselves, fully diving in, and that's why it's really cool for you and I to talk about it now instead of talking about it when we were 14. And so like that's what I'm saying. Now it's fine.
Did you think that song was really good?
Dude, it was amazing.
It was
I don't even know what it meant, but it was amazing. And so yeah, like I said, Sex on Fire comes out September 15th, 4 days before the album. And December 8th, 3 days after my birthday, and a couple months after the album even releases, You Somebody's released as a single. And then in March 2nd on 2009, pretty much 6 months later, Revelry gets dropped as the third single. And then the fourth single is Notion, like we were talking about, June 29th in 2009. And then October 27th of 2009, a whole year after, Crawl gets released as a single. And then Frontier City, the song we're talking about, that didn't get released as a single. It was on the album, but it got released fully, like, everywhere on January 1st of 2010, a whole pretty much year and 4 months or so.
Which is still crazy to me that I didn't even hear it when it was released as a
single. I think that was the time that I...
Like, what?
And then, honestly, and the funny thing about Frontier City, I think this is the time that I looked this up, too. They re-released it because it didn't get that many plays and stuff. April 12th of 2011, a whole 3 years later. So, like, that's the cool part is they re-released it twice. The only song on this album that got released twice. And, yeah, so Frontier City, for you guys who haven't listened to it, I would definitely listen to it. I'll probably put it up somewhere here, too, like, because it's not as well known as the 11 songs that we're going to break down and everything, so... But yeah, so like for me, for songs that kind of stuck out a little bit, clearly, I mean, I remember Closer always being amazing as a start off, Crawl, all this, whatever. And then for me, I think the one that kind of stuck out to me the most, because the older you get, the more vulnerable you get, the more like emotional you get and whatever. So I Want You, for me, and Be Somebody, because I think we're all trying to be somebody in our own lives. But like those two, just back to back, the tracks 9 and 10, I don't know what it was this time for some reason, but it's the only songs I've been replaying, because I'm so used to the other ones. It's just so phenomenal. And that's the cool thing, too, is there is a couple songs on these that, like, already have, like, they explain it already, but there are some cool ones that have different explanations and whatnot for it. But, like, Sex on Fire, clearly it's about talking about how, the fit, like, them as a band love going on the road, love having sex with ladies, You Somebody. It was actually Nathan, the lead singer, talking about how, it was his like opening. He just had shoulder surgery in 2007, and he was home in Tennessee, and it was like his time he never has been that vulnerable and whatnot. So clearly, he talks about how much he could use somebody like on the road just to cuddle and stuff, quote unquote cuddle. We all know, suck him off, fuck him, like that type shit. Not to go too crazy, but like, and then I Want You clearly is talking about how you want somebody, you want this girl, but that girl also has another guy that wants him as too. So it's like that battle, like inner battle between yourself, like should I do it? And then Be Somebody clearly is pretty self-explanatory. It's them trying to talk as a band together, and clearly through this the one singer, like that they can be somebody in this life, or they can all be somebody and just prove everybody right, or like wrong technically, but prove the
Right.
family right. And so it's such a beautiful album, dude. Like, honestly, 11 songs, like I said, under 43 minutes. It's such an easy listen. It's such easy, like, there's no song that I would skip on, like, most albums. Like, that's why these awards, we might not even go into the awards today just because it's a rock version. And I don't know, it was just tough because, like, the Jackson 4 award, that's our biggest nitpicks and stuff. Like, we might talk about nitpicks, but, I mean, I don't even think I have one. We could talk about it now, actually. Like, do you have any nitpicks at all from this album? Like, I don't think I'd change a single thing.
Well,
I will. How about this?
Okay.
I will say this now because we're in cancel culture and stuff.
I was just about to bring it up.
I was hoping when I was looking up the different meanings for these songs, I was really hoping that the song number 7 is called 17. It's a solid 3-minute 5-second song. I was really hoping that it was like almost like a
metaphor.
a metaphor for them being like, hey, we're almost there, we're almost about to be there and like make it and stuff as a band, like we're about to be 18, we're about to be legal and stuff, but we're just right there. No, it's completely talking about a girl at 17 and she's not old enough. And like, to be fair, at the time these guys were on, like the youngest one I think is I think their cousin's like 21 at the time, so it's not too far off, but the oldest one's 25, lead singer Nathan. It's like, eek.
Yeah, I would say that song didn't age very well.
If that came out today, Kings of Leon are canceled. I'm just saying. Like, we're not even talking about Kings of Leon right now, but it's still, for a song, it's phenomenal. But
it's
when
not
you
like
have
a
it,
super raunchy song.
No,
or anything,
it's not at all. It's just talking.
It's definitely talking about an underage woman.
100%, and it does sound great. But I'm at the point now. I don't know about you, because I've been listening a lot in my car, jamming, because I'm driving to like work out and stuff. I kind of find myself turning it down a little bit. Especially how nice it's been this last weekend. It's like, let me turn this down just a tad.
Can't be playing this with the windows
I'm too old.
down.
Like, that's 11 years younger than me.
Oh,
Like, there's no way I would
17.
ever, you know what I'm saying? I'm sitting here fighting if I would even talk to a 21-year-old. And that's fully legal. But it's still, like, just the immaturity. Like, I don't know. It's just, that's tough. So that might be the only thing I change. Maybe even just change the lyrics a tad. Change it to 19.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Only 19
or 18, some anyway. Anyway,
the 17 just rolls off the tongue very well.
It does.
So
It does roll off.
it's
very
unfortunate.
Well.
Great song, but it didn't age well. Didn't age well.
It did not. I will give it. So that might be the only nitpick, but that's just because of cancel culture and stuff. But the song itself sounds amazing.
Oh,
honestly,
yeah.
I will say the vocals, everything that they touch is gold on here, and that's what I like so much about this album compared to the other three, is that. They're finding themselves a little bit in the first three. They have like a couple, like they got like, I know they're longer tracks too. So like I know in Youth and Young Manhood, the 2003 album, I remember there's only like 3 or 4 songs I know I really really like, and then there was about like 12 that I'm like, they're almost there. Shake Heartbreak kind of starts going a little bit more. It's like 7, 8 songs that are good, and then it's about like that 10 or whatever that's like where they can get there, and then because of the times. They really start kind of gathering themselves, and that's why they turn in so quickly around. This was released less than a year after. So it's like, they're really starting to find themselves. And, man, I'm so happy for it. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, without these songs making it big, we'd never even probably hear Kings of Leon. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, because, I've talked to people before, sometimes you make small talk with people and they're like, oh, what's your favorite band? What's your this or that? Yeah. And I always say Kings of Leon. And they're like, who's that? And I'm like, what?
Kill yourself.
But, they've never been super popular. They had their moment in 2008, 2009. They had their 15 minutes. But, even after that, when we went to Blossom, let's be real, wasn't packed.
No, heck
wasn't
no,
sold
no.
out.
We actually
got better tickets for $10. It was kind of crazy.
We were in the. It's one of those.
It makes me sad a little bit.
Oh yeah,
that they're not bigger, but they're so good.
It's almost even more intimate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you can tell we're not just mainstream fans at that rate. Nobody in there's mainstream fans.
Oh,
I don't care. And if there's maybe 1 or 2 that's like, oh, I like You, Somebody, or Sex on Fire. Okay, but you're about to be amazed here because they're that good. And actually, the only other person, that's funny you bring that up, the only other person I know that even likes Kings of Leon is Cody Boyles, my guy that work out with him and everything. His girlfriend, actually, when she was our roommate and everything at the time, years ago, she bought me the Because of the Times album for my birthday because she knows big Kings of Leon fan. I was like, how did you know this shit? And then she ends up being she's a huge Kings of Leon fan, so shout out to Kayla for real. She probably never even watched that, but shouts out to her. Seriously, that's the only other Kings of Leon fan I know. And, yeah, so like you're saying, not many people, like, you're going to ask people who their favorite bands is, especially, like, newer. You know, you're clearly always going to have the Nirvana fans and stuff, Blink-182, all the, like, different ones. Like, and then if we're going older, 80s, they got so many bands, 70s, so many bands, you know, Pink Floyd. It's always something like that, but it's rare. If you actually ever hear somebody talk about if they're actually a diehard Kings of Leon fan, it's like, you're not even questioning it.
No, because I don't ever hear anybody just say that. You know what I mean? Like
we were talking about it on the Faces thing. We had the same conversation. It was like, okay, we have a Mac Miller fan, and they say they like, you know, just a certain, like, Knock Knock or like whatever, like a certain song. You're like, are you actually a big fan? Like, I like name.
But if you were to hear someone come up to you and say, bro, like, you know, just they were to say something like of a song or Faces or a mix, like even if someone was like, yo, bro, you listen to Delusional Thomas? I'd be like,
oh, yeah, you're a diehard.
I'd be
you're
like,
a diehard.
Very cool.
Larry Fisherman, you're a huge fan. Larry loves the Annie.
Yeah, right. Like,
you know.
If someone were to say something like that, I'd be like, oh,
yeah,
Cash.
like, oh my God, you like Malibu? That's a great song. It's like,
right.
Okay, diehard fan.
I know
you
who you are.
So, but here, Kings of Leon, that might be the only chance.
If I just hear someone mention them,
yeah,
like,
I believe you, 100%. Yeah. We're friends. We're friends now. Even if you're a piece of shit, we are friends. You know. So, where. This is the tough part. I want to like talk about where this lies as your favorite, like, or in your spot of favorite Kings of Leon albums, but I don't like going past the point. Like, I want to say that we're still in 2008 at this rate a little bit. Like, clearly we talk about now re-listening to it, but I don't want to go any further than 2008 and start talking about their other albums, because they do go on to make some phenomenal fucking albums, in my opinion. I love all of them, but it's like, it's almost like they haven't been released yet. This is our conversation we're having, so I don't even want to, because it's not fair to even kind of compare them to the first three albums, to be fair, because this album's so fucking good.
Well, to be honest with you, this is the album that I'm most well versed in, just because I have listened to all their other albums, but to be honest with you, their last few albums, other than Walls, the album Walls, like, I don't really know a whole lot of the songs. Like, I know their hits off of the albums, but I don't know the songs like I know these ones.
I'll give you that.
So, like, for me, this is my all-time favorite Kings of... Like, I don't think it'll... Even if they were to come out with an album tomorrow and it was gas, like pure fire, there's just something about this. I've listened to it so many times, and when I heard it for the first time, it was in such an impressionable part of my life that, like, it's just, like, kind of imprinted in here.
Oh, 100%.
You know
this is a very iconic album.
Like, I listened to Manhattan... And, like, I literally can smell the sand and the salt water at the beach because, like, I'd go on family vacations and, like, I'm a very anxious guy and I like to be alone a lot. So, like, I would literally just, like, sneak out of the apartment or the condo and go down to the beach with my headset on, and I'd walk as long as I could down the beach listening to this. And every time Manhattan came on, I felt like I just got in this weird zone. And it just... Every time I hear it, it brings me right back to freaking Myrtle Beach. Every time. I'm just going back to Myrtle Beach every time.
Let's break it down. I'm happy you bring it up.
Let's go!
So Manhattan, so for me, I love how you bring that up, because all of these songs are nostalgic as hell for us. Like, for me, shouts out to Nick Sewell, and also kind of not shouts out to you because you hate Kings of Leon so much.
Oh,
so, like, you're an amazing guy. I miss you and everything, but
Rewind.
but him and I, we went on a nice little trip out in the hills or whatever. Like, I honestly forget where we even went at this rate, but I went with his family. It was a really nice trip. We were literally out in the mountains.
Oh yeah, he's a big We the Kings fan.
I dove. Oh yeah.
He still owes me a freaking Walmart drive for that. Remember that?
Oh hell yeah!
I said I will give you the We the Kings album if you drive us to Walmart because we're bored as shit. All right, gave him the album. Guess what? Never went to Walmart.
Yep, no Walmart drive.
Motherfucker.
And that was
I don't forget.
That was our clubs at the time.
I don't ever forget.
In high school. But yeah, him and I, we were up in the mountains.
Madison crew.
Yeah, shouts out. Madison, we should have wore it. But anyway. But anyway, we're up in the mountains, four-wheeling, whatever, with his family. Super nice trip. But that's when it was this summer. Or pretty much like at the end of the summer when this came out. So it was like literally right around this time. And I remember listening to Manhattan, and that's what it reminds me of every time. Just being up in the mountains. Almost like a little more country feel, you know? Like kind of where they were at. So like I'm happy that you brought up how it's the beach. But like for me, it's like mountains, being up there, like campfire, like just always like thinking of four-wheelers and stuff, like boots, you know, stuff like that. It's like it's like a real cool
riff.
Dude. And this is why I want to bring it up. This song, is so skipped over. It's ridiculous. I don't know how. Literally looking this up and everything, it didn't even have a ability to find how it charted and stuff. That's how like little people listen to it. I found so many charts
That's
and all, which we'll dive.
Album.
We're gonna.
That's my favorite song on the whole album.
I'm not lying to you. I think it's probably mine too. Other than if I had to be real with ourselves, it's You Somebody, because just like it's the introduction and stuff. But 100% after listening to it and shit, I'm right there with you. Manhattan is such a beautiful song. And actually, fun fact for you, I looked this up. It's actually a Native American word that means island of many hills. So how shocking is that? That I'm used to thinking about like the mountains and stuff, and that's how like it was kind of cool. So, but yeah, I'm just really upset that this song doesn't get the love that it deserves. To be honest, like I think this song easily, like we just said, it's easily, if not your favorite song, it's got to be a top 3 song on this album, in my opinion. And even to go out the track list, dude, like this. It goes from Crawl, like you can add Crawl in there, I love Crawl, but if you put Crawl, Sex on Fire, You Somebody, Manhattan, and Revelry back to back to back to back, I don't know if you can give me a 4-song track even better than that, or even 5 songs right then and there. I don't think, and sadly, if you take 17 out of there, which I loved at the time, but if you take 17 out there and you add Notion in there, that's 6 songs in a row that I don't think many artists ever have the ability to make 6 songs in a row like that are that good, or 5 that we should say right now. But like, I'm putting those 5 in a row. Like if somebody asked you like, hey man, this is my challenge for you. You come up with either 4 or 5 songs in a row on an album off the track list, like it has to be in order off the track list, that are so fire that has no skips or nothing. I'm putting that up with any album. Literally any album. And I've always believed it. I'll always talk about it. It's my biggest take from this album.
Okay, sorry to cut you off.
No, go for it.
But like for me, like
if you need to look, you can look.
No, just like another album that is, to me, that's very similar to like this Kings of Leon album is Songs About Jane by Maroon 5, which we might have to hit up that once. I don't know.
There's a lot of Maroon 5.
But long story short, that album, dude, I remember just there was always this thing that me and my mom said, like we at one point were part of like a CD club.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And we always had this thing like, oh, if there's at least one to 3 good songs on there, we'll get the album. Yep. That's what Maroon 5 came out and they had a few hit songs off that album, right? A few. I had a bunch.
All of them.
Long story short, we listened to that album. We didn't skip a single freaking song the whole way. Dude, they just kept getting better and better and better. I'm like, what is going on?
Shouts out to Maroon 5, by the way. Maroon 5. You guys are still going hard 20-something years later, 25 years later. It's ridiculous.
Sorry, we keep getting off track.
No, we're not at all. It's actually, Maroon 5 is going to come back up here, actually. It probably should, at least. So my only other question real quick before we kind of like really get into like everything. My biggest take, I think, from re-listening now in 2022, and especially now that we know that Kings of Leon dropped that album in 2020, I think it was the end of 2020, or it might have been early 2021 that we were just talking about that you didn't get a chance to listen to. Do you think that they were 10, 15 years behind, like maybe behind what they should have been? Like maybe they should have been 80s artists or 90s artists. Like if they released then, do you think that they're even better? Because if you keep in mind, in 2000s, especially later 2000s, we're starting to get to the hip, like not hip hop, but the pop. That's it, like pop stuff. Like it's got to be a radio hit. It's got to be Lady Gaga. It's got to be like, because even Eminem started to kind of fall like a little bit here in the late 2000s where people weren't listening to him as much, and it was a lot of like Lil Wayne, like big like radio hits, even though Lil Wayne's fire, but like at the time Lil Wayne was a big radio hit guy, and like Maroon 5 even, like you could say, it was like everybody, like bands weren't a thing, like they kind of fell apart for a while, like nobody really cared about bands anymore, and I think that's why they might not be that so mainstream or anything anymore, because I think this might be the tail end of where they could have been successful, and that's why this album was so successful, which we will get into as well. But what do you think? Do you think that they maybe were a little past what they should have been?
I'm going to give you a hot take here.
Let me hear a hot take. Hot take coming in.
If they were back, like, let's say they started, I don't know, let's say they were trying to be a band in the 80s or something like that.
Yeah, they were born 10 years earlier, 15 years earlier.
I think it would be the same. Because you got to remember, though, like, back in the 70s and 80s or whatever, rock and roll had, like, that was that era's hip-hop.
No, 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
100%.
everybody was doing rock and roll.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know if they would have stood out. You know?
I think if this album, this is my take as well, because this is what a lot of the critics and everything were saying about it. If this drops in like the mid '80s or even the early '90s with like the Nirvana stuff, I think this takes off. I think it takes off. I think even more, because "Sex on Fire" and "Use Somebody," that's what they're known for. You know what I'm saying? That's those songs that they're.
No, I agree with that.
They might.
I'm just saying, like, if they were, I guess I took your question as if like if they were like a little like earlier. Like I'm talking about
you keep the same songs, everything,
like
same flow.
I'm talking about like Led Zeppelin days and stuff like that.
Yeah. Leonard Skinner, that's what I'm talking about too. Like,
I don't know. Those were such great bands. I just don't know, like. But
I'm
if
not
they were
saying
to,
that they'd be known as top
if they
bands.
dropped the same songs though, like if they, I guess what you're saying, if they dropped this album.
Yeah, exactly.
In the 80s.
Only by the Night gets dropped in the 80s or early 90s. What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's probably gonna blow brains off.
I think we might be listening. I still think we're listening. I was thinking
in the way like I wasn't even thinking about this album. I was just thinking if they were a band.
Oh, okay,
back then.
okay.
Because like
that's my fault. I should have.
Think about it realistically. They would probably sound more like those bands because that's the sound that was back then.
And to be honest, if you're coming out of Tennessee in the 80s or 90s. Maybe even 70s, you better be a country band. Like, it's hard to come out, like, as, like, an alternative rock band like they are known. It'd be really tough for them in the 80s and 90s. So, yeah, it was just kind of my question, because I really think that, like, especially when we see them in the 2010s, like, you and I diehards, but I think in the 2010s, bands completely die off. Like, don't get me wrong, there are a couple that, like,
a lot of rock and roll,
but rock and roll for mainstream dies the fuck off.
Like, you don't... Like, for instance, like, around here we have a station called Q92.
Yeah, 92 your main.
They used to play, like, hit rock and roll songs when we were younger.
Heavy.
Like, 13, 14. And I would say in the last, like, 4 years, 5 years, maybe even longer, they don't ever really play... once in a blue moon, you'll hear a... Actually, what's funny is I actually hear "Sex on Fire" quite a bit.
Yeah, "Sex on Fire" has been
They play that a lot on Q92 actually.
100%.
But they don't play as many rock and roll hit songs anymore as they used to. It's all hip hop, rap, and R&B. Like
100%. I agree.
R&B.
I agree 100%.
You know, so.
And that's the coolest thing about this album. It just shows how it's gonna always survive the test of time, in my opinion. Just because. We're gonna read off the Grammy nominations. And
I agree with that. I think it's a time. Yeah, it's
a timeless album. That's why we're doing it, and it helps that, like I said, it's our introduction to it and stuff, and we fall in love with this album. So you and I, it's a very personal album. But like when I re-look this up and everything, because perfect example, you and I talking about how we're diehard, and you don't hear many Kings of Leon fans to re-look this up and see how it charted and everything, and like certifications and stuff. It just made me feel better as a fan, like because I love these guys. I always wish them success. I can't wait for them to tour again since the COVID shit. Like, I want to see them again. And, so yeah, that's just my thing. I really always thought that this was their last, like, if this was their last album and this was, like, the one that they just released, like, last year or 2 years ago, I think that they still maybe would have made a couple hits off of it because we still hear it on their, like, the gym and stuff. They got a couple songs. But I think instead of them starting in the early 2000s and ending, like, 2020s or whatever, like, I think if they would have started in the 90s and ended in the 2010s or, like, late 2000s, they're a way different band. We're talking about them way different. We got them up there like Nirvana, like maybe not as good as Nirvana clearly because they take over the world. But like,
I think just oddly enough they missed the hype train.
They missed it. I 100%
you know what I mean?
agree.
Like there was no one that was like no one hyped them up.
100%.
But they're good as hell.
100%, and we love them. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, yeah, I 100% agree. That's what I'm basically trying to get at. I think they missed just their time barely by a couple years. To be honest, like 10 years is not long in the music game. So. I mean, it is for a single artist to stay hot for 10 years and relevant, but I'm talking like for us 10 years, especially as younger, like it's not that long of a time. So, so yeah, I 100% agree. And another thing I really want to shout out, re-looking at this up, this song, or not the song, but this album globally and internationally is huge.
It's huge.
In UK, Ireland, Poland, Germany.
Belgium. A lot of overseas countries.
New Zealand.
They go crazy for these people.
I can't wait to read these
But they're not huge here. But they're huge everywhere else.
I mean, they did know. They like, you know, it comes out #1 in the U.S. on multiple forums. Like, there's so many. There's like, it's so funny reading the different, like, charts and stuff for, like, different, your Billboard, and like we got Hot 100. Like, we got all these stupid ones here in the U.S. We literally have like 6 different charts that we have, and it's like rock only. It's every song. It's hip hop. It's pop. It's all these different ones. But like Ireland, Belgium, UK, all these different ones. They got Canada. Like Canada's got 2, I think, but like everybody else only has 1 chart, and it's all the songs. And it was just so cool to see how big this song really was.
Oh, yeah.
And they win so many international like awards and whatnot, which we'll get into here very soon. But like man, I'm trying to think of songs we might not talk about here. Like, so like, all right, real quick, Closer as the intro. I don't think it could be any other song. I'm not joking. It just sets you off on a tone that's just so beautiful.
I think they made that purposely to be the
intro. We'll
get
this out of the way now. I would not change this track list at all. Like we said, 17 might have been the only one that maybe we could do without, but that's just because of the times right now. If we're talking about, if we sat down in 2008 at the age we are now and we're breaking this album down, we're loving every single part of it. We're just like, holy shit.
Oh, yeah, because when I heard it, 17-year-old girl was older than me. So I'm like,
oh, yeah, especially, you're getting with a 7. That's why I loved it so much at the time, because it's like, man, I got with a 17-year-old now? I'm like, I'm only 14. I'm pimping. You know what I'm saying? So I really love that. And then I'm trying to get into it real quick. Okay, I'll do this for you, because I was talking about it yesterday. My first technical introduction to Kings of Leon. I wanted to tell you this. I told you it was in a movie.
Yep.
So it was a movie that came out literally a year before this in 2007. And I don't want you to look at it, so don't even look. I'll give it a little rundown for you. I watched this movie a handful of times before I ever heard this album. I watched this movie so many times. I won't even lie to you. But to see it, I rewatched it probably like in 2012 or somewhere around that range, 2011 for the first time in a couple years. And, dude, it's gonna blow your mind here. Disturbia with Shia LaBeouf. The scene where he just it was like the first time where he's at his house with his ankle lock on, and he's trying to like test how far, because he sets little sticks out and stuff, how far he can go. They got the song playing, Taper Jean Girl from Shake Heartbreak, and that song, remember it like hey hey, and then like that whole song, dude. It's in that, and I remember watching again like that's Kings of fucking Leon. That's Kings of fucking Leon right there. Because I dove so deep. After this album came out, for the next 2 years, 3 years, I dove so deep. Like we talked about before, I used to have to mow my dad's yard and stuff. I would always have my headphones in, listen to new Kings of Leon albums, listen to all, or not new ones, but their old ones. You just blew
my mind with that.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. And that same song, or actually, here's a good one for you. The same song, Taper Jean Girl, was in the Ballad of Ricky Bobby, Talladega Nights. And it was actually...
What?
It was at the race at the Lowe's Motor Speedway, which I did not go back and watch, so I need to go watch. But it's just like, the montage of the races where he's like winning all these times. It's that song playing. And then also, if you're a fan of Pistol of Fire, which is also a good song, and Taper Jean Girl as well, in 2008 was in Cloverfield. Both songs were in Cloverfield. But they were like...
What's up with...
Cloverfield's so wild and stuff. Like, it's so like... all over the place, and like it's like shaky cam and everything, so you don't really hear it that well. But it's in like when HUD, the guy with the curly hair, when you first meet him, he's partying, and they're at that party and stuff.
Yeah.
Taper Jean Girl's in the back, and then Pistol of Fire, which is a slower song, that was in the scene where Beth and Rob are saying bye to each other under the bridge. It's a really slow play in the back. Really slow play. And I went and re-looked at it, and I was shook. I was like, man, what? I was like, how do I not know these things? And then
wait, but real quick, why is the Taper Jean Girl, why is that such a popular song in movies?
Because it is a pretty good upbeat, and like it's like their we're gonna play it after this because we can't play it on this thing, but it's one of their more like upbeat, and it was like one of their first, like a lot of people that are fans of them would say it's like their first mainstream song from Shake Heartbreak, because Youth and Young Manhood didn't have like that song in Shake Heartbreak. Like I said, it had a couple like pretty good ones.
Didn't it have The Bucket on it too?
Yeah, and The Bucket was on a couple other movies, but I didn't write it down. But because The Bucket made it pretty big too. So I always thought that was really cool. I'm not gonna lie to you. I thought that was dope. But like to rewatch that years later and see it in Disturbia in one of like the more famous scenes in that movie, it's like holy shit, because it's upbeat. That's because he's running and stuff, and it's kind of like it's enough where. Because they have like their vocals. You know how like Kings of Leon has like the, it's not fair to say ad-libs, but they do that like you hear it in Use Somebody, like you hear it all the time. Like their background vocals are so good, and they're good at like making some like, they're so good at that. So it's like it's a very upbeat song, and they got the cowbell going in the back, and they got all these the drums going hard. It's just a beautiful beat that's just like really nice and upbeat. So like, because I remember Shia LaBeouf, he gets zapped a bunch of times, and we're kind of laughing in the scene, so it's really cool. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's really fucking cool. And like I said, it's in Cloverfield as the party scene, so it's got to be like a little upbeat so people can party. So
speaking of party scenes, real quick, you've watched Black Mirror before, right?
Oh yeah, I love Black Mirror.
So did you watch it was off of one of their newest seasons. It was the one with Anthony Mackie and
the weird one?
Where
gotta get gay in the video game? Yeah, okay, yeah. Clearly
did you happen... and it's not Kings of Leon, but did you happen to notice at the very beginning of the episode when they're at the house party, the vinyl player in the background is playing Ladders by Mac Miller?
Is it really?
Yeah.
What?
Blew my mind.
I'll have to go watch that because I am a big Mac guy.
Blew my mind. I freaked out. But that just what you were talking about with them just reminded me of that because it was very subtle. You could barely hear it in the background, but it was there. It was noticeable, but quiet.
All right. That's actually pretty crazy. I'm not going to lie. Well, I shouldn't say crazy. It's the wrong word. But you know what I'm saying. It's pretty wild that I wouldn't even pick on that. So, before we get into what the album charts and everything, I do want to start diving into what the singles, what the biggest songs from the album technically. And we'll just start in order from on the track list. So Crawl, this all right, be ready because this shit's going to be kind of cool I was really happy for this. So it peaked, the highest it peaks is in Canada at number 3. Crawl does out of every song in the world peaks at number 3 in Canada. Which Crawl I would never consider that type of a song that would, I like it a lot, but you don't think it would be that big on the radio.
It's a very hard abrupt song.
Yeah, dude, they go ham, but it's a lot. Speaking of Crawl, it's a very old school rock type song in my opinion.
Yeah,
it's more rock than we're used to.
It's definitely more of a heavy rock.
Because it's rock. Because it's that's a tough thing about where Kings of Leon places in their genres. Are they alternative? Are they country? Or are they rock? So it's really cool. But in the U.S. they chart at number 42. Australia's number 70, and then in the UK it's at number 125, which is still impressive as hell. The Crawl would place there. And then now we get into the big boy. This one is actually really, really fucking cool. And after I talk about You Somebody, I'll tell you how big Sex on Fire is. So Sex on Fire, not only was it number 1 in US, but it's the first number 1 in Australia ever for a rock song ever. And then it also number 1 in Finland, Ireland, and the UK. And then on September 9th, it broke Britain's streaming record or most downloads record forever for rock, and it's the second most digital download song ever in the UK. Is Sex on Fire. That's how we don't remember how big, you don't remember how big this song is, because I know we hear it on the radio and stuff, but we don't know internationally how big this was. So it also sold 1.2 million copies in the UK, which was the first song that I think ever sold over 1 million, especially rock. And then it peaked at number 2. That's all the ones that were number 1. Peaks at number 2 in Belgium, New Zealand, and Scotland.
Wow.
And then peaks at number 3 in Denmark, and number 6. Number 6 song at the end of the year in all of Europe. All of Europe's number 6 song. And these guys are from Tennessee. That's how big that song is. And then I'm going to break it even more because it breaks a whole streaming record that I can't wait to tell you. But now we're going to Use Somebody. It's the 4th song on here. So it's number 1 for 6 consecutive weeks in the U.S. This one probably placed the highest on the Hot 100's Billboard's list, which is every song. And it was number 4. And then we'll go into what it wins and nominated for. But it peaks at number 2 on the UK singles chart and spends 40 consecutive weeks on the chart. And the only reason it dropped out is because at this time, a year later or whatever, Michael Jackson dies. So all Michael Jackson songs stream and takes it off for only 1 week. And then it goes back on there for another 20 consecutive weeks. So it's literally 77 weeks on the top 75, making it the 14th place longest running song of all time in the UK. And guess what Sex on Fire is in the UK of all time most running? Number 8.
Wow.
So it's 6 places ahead of it. Sex on Fire was on there for 90 weeks. That's ridiculous, dude. That's and those are the top rock songs in there. There's the only ones that make the top 25 of the top 75, and it's Kings of Leon in the UK. Shouts out to the UK. And then not only does Use Somebody peak at number 1 for the U.S., like on multiple forums, like I said, there's like 6 different charts. It's number 1 in Poland, Canada, and Belgium. It's number 2 in Australia, Switzerland, and the UK. Like I said, like that's it peaks up there. That's the highest it gets. At the year end, I should say. And then it's top 10s in Germany, which made it to number 9. Ireland, which made it to number 6. Number 7 in Netherlands. Number 5 in New Zealand. Number 5 in Norway. And in Sweden, it was number 7. And then at the decade's end in Australia, it's number 27 of all songs from 2000 to 2009. The 27th best song in Australia, and number 32 on the UK's list, which is absolutely fucking mind blowing. And then it's also all time record ever. It's number 24 in the U.S. for rock songs, and then number 118 of all songs in the UK. That's of all time right now to this day. So that's just fucking mind blowing. I'll probably have some like list and shit up here, whatever, so you guys can see more, because I know I'm just kind of reading it off.
I did not know all that.
It's ridiculous. That's how big those 2 songs are. And then this one this is where it kind of gets shocking to me, because these are the last 2. So Revelry peaks at number 6 in Poland, number 19 in Belgium and New Zealand, number 21 in Australia, and then it's number 29 in the UK. Like at this time for the first week's chart and everything, which is mind blowing. It didn't even peak in the US, but in the rest of the world, it's fucking blowing up. And then, like you said, one of our favorite songs off this album, which is just fucking phenomenal, Notion, peaks number 1 in the US, number 7 in Poland, and it's a top 25 song in Belgium, which was number 24, and then New Zealand's 25, and then it's also a top 50 song in Australia, Canada, and Ireland. Fucking mind blowing, dude. Like,
wow, I honestly did not realize it did that well.
That's what I'm saying. I'm so happy we redid this, not only for you and I, but
wow,
like to see how truly big this album is. Like, that's why when we do re-listenable albums, like, you're not gonna hear me. No offense to any of the new artists and shit, you're never gonna hear me do the Lil Babies, not to even be me, like Lil Nas X. I like their songs and stuff, but like, I don't like their albums aren't that iconic. They're not amazing songs. You're just almost like really good beats, not that great of lyrics. Like, I'm always gonna be true to myself, and like of course it's my opinion of what songs I truly love, but to like see like what songs or what albums I always go back to and reference and actually like redo these and see like they were the shit. It's really cool to like kind of like, you know, reassure yourself, you know. So real quick, do you have anything to say about that at all? Because we're about to get into
I do
awards
actually.
too,
I think when it comes to today's like albums and things of that in general, just artists and stuff, I think there's just such a overload of music out there that it's like hard to pick out the gems anymore.
Ridiculously hard. Like, I'm happy you bring that up, because I was just
like,
editing.
There's so much stuff out there that it's like, I don't know. For instance, like Drake, he's one of the best rappers out there, right?
Artist, yeah.
But
yep. Sorry, I don't
I
consider him a rapper.
right?
I don't consider him a rapper. But he's a great artist. Yes, my bad.
Great artist.
Sorry.
No, I agree.
Sorry.
But what I'm saying is like that dude will drop an album like every year. You know what I mean? And he's got like fucking a bunch of them now. So it's like to the point where it's like.
Takes away.
They kind of almost like run in together. Some of them do kind of sound similar, and like I'm
happy you bring this up.
It's just tough. Like, whereas like with rock bands and things of that nature, like sometimes they could make an album in a year. It could take them 3 years to make an album, but when it comes it's because they take their time. They're not trying to just make volume songs. They're not 100%. Trying to make a volume song.
I'm happy you bring that up, because it's honestly, not to even be funny, I feel like the genre for that would be like rap. That's why it's like a rap race nowadays. Not to be funny, but like Adele and Sam Smith and certain artists that I really fucking love, those are the ones you don't see albums for every year. It's like literally Adele's every 5 years, Sam Smith's every like 4 years. Like,
and they come out in these freaking out. Speaking of which, Adele's most recent album.
30. Ooh!
Jesus!
25, we're going to have to do. That's one of my favorite albums of all fucking time. I don't even care if we look like women up here talking about it.
No.
That's one of the greatest.
We'll have Tay join us for that, because
I hope so. I'm not joking. I really hope so.
Has been listening to that album
I'll probably, I'm not gonna lie, I'll probably cry doing that album because it's
crazy.
that phenomenal of an album. She's so like, she puts all her emotions in it, but I guess this isn't an Adele album. But like I was saying too, like what we were just talking about. That's why I was just editing my Kendrick Lamar Good Kid, Mad City album that we already did on Relistenables, which it's already up on YouTube, but it's about to be on IG and stuff. That one, I remember saying to my friend TB, Tyler, we were talking, and I was like, dude, like, at this time, like, because I think it was 2010 it dropped, I was like, at this time, he might be the last artist with him and J. Cole as rappers that, like, when you're hearing them, you know it's like that hunger like Eminem was when he first came out. Nas came out. Jay-Z came out. Like, those guys weren't dropping albums every fucking day. They were literally making masterpieces, classics. Good Kid, Mad City is one of the greatest albums of all time, and it's his third album. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it took years for him to get in that point. That's why I bring that up, because Kings of Leon were the same way. Like, years and years and years of practice to make them that way. And once you hear them, you're like, that's it. That's the future. And that's why I'm happy you bring that, because today you're not hearing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can hear maybe one song, but like you listen to the album, you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, and they all got, and not to even be mean to these artists, they also have a lot of pressure from their labels and stuff to get them out now.
Bro,
it's
a lot of the
recency
contracts
bias,
that they're signing is they just want these artists to be pumping out songs 100%. All the time.
I'm happy you said that, dude. Seriously, that was perfect. Thank you for saying that. Seriously, my man.
I got you.
Like, seriously, but anything else real quick on these songs at all? Because I'm about to go into like the albums tracking and everything, because it just gets so crazy on the charts of this album. So for the weekly album, just for the first week from 2008 2009 type thing, for that like charts or whatever, just for the first week, this album in total, not just one song, this album in total peaks at number 1 in Australia, number 1 in Belgium, number 1 in Ireland, number 1 in Scotland, number 1 in England, and number 1 in the U.S. So that's six countries that this peaks at number 1. This album, first week sales. Number two peaking, Canada. Number 3 peaks in Netherlands. Number 4 in Sweden, which kind of blew my mind. Number 5 in Denmark, and then number 6 in Finland. Like, and then I'm not joking, it had a bunch of top 50 marks all over the world, but I was just like, all right, we're gonna stick to the top 10 because that's impressive. I didn't want to write all of them off. So, to make it even more impressive, to show how even deeper this album is, this is year-end charts. This is literally, that was weekly charts today. All right, this is year-end charts for all these countries. Number 1 in Australia, number 1 in Ireland, and then in one of the on the rock, or actually, no, this is it. It was number 3 in the U.S. And guess what the 2 albums were before that in year-end? And it's like kind of like Understanding, and this is it beats out Maroon 5, beats out freaking Paramore at the time, beats out all these albums that dropped. Coldplay beats out all these albums. The only 2 albums it doesn't beat this year in 2008 for year end, Jay-Z's Blueprint 3, I think, or just Blueprint 1 was number 1, and number 2 was Taylor Swift's Fearless. Like, and it's probably better than that, but like Taylor Swift's, they got the Swifties out there. But
she's a mogul, bro.
That shows how big this album is, dude.
They show out for T Swift.
It blows out every other rock album in this.
That is insane, though.
Blows my fucking mind. It's only behind
because
Jay-Z and T Swift.
I'm not taking anything away from Jay-Z or T Swift, but they're moguls. You know what I mean? They're huge. Yes. They're so popular. People just love them for who they are.
100%.
But for Kings of Leon to come in at 3, right?
Number 3 all U.S. a year end of all genres.
Sheesh.
Mind blowing. And like I said, beats out Coldplay, beats out Paramore, beats out literally anybody you can imagine. Maroon 5, literally anyone that's real big, beats out. I think, Jesus Christ, beats out everybody. I don't even want to get into it. It's crazy how many people they beat out. So that's in number 3 in England as well, and then worldwide, this is the one that blows my mind. Mr. Worldwide. No, this one. Worldwide on all charts, year-end charts, it peaks at, or it ends at number 21 of all time. That's fucking mind-blowing, dude. I can't even wrap my head around it.
Of all time?
Of all time. Of worldwide of that year. Of the year-end charts. Number 21 of all songs, all countries, all everything. Like, number 21. That is mind-blowing. Blows out every rock album. Wow. I think it even outbeats Jay-Z and T Swift for worldwide.
For worldwide, yeah.
Bro. You don't realize how big they fucking are. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then here's where it gets real mind-blowing. So in total, just so you guys know, like, just to put this out there, this is how big of an album this is for Kings of Leon. And to say it real quick too, this is where Sex on Fire, that song that got so big that when they were touring during this album being dropped, Sex on Fire is kind of known for people around them for being the song that drives the band kind of apart. Because as a diehard Kings of Leon fans, which we're not bringing up right for the rest of it, because the rest of the albums, if we ever re-listen those, we'll bring them up. But like it kind of draws a rift. They have, they start fighting with each other and everything. They kind of don't talk to each other at all when they're not recording. Like, and they're family members, But the success of Sex on Fire and like blowing them up, that's what got them, because they all started drinking because of being the nerves and how big their shows were getting, and then clearly some of them kind of lose their. I'm not gonna call out who they are, but they start losing like their true selves. They start getting too scared. They don't have a grip on their drug use and their alcohol use, and like a couple of them in the band are like actually trying to keep it together. Mm-hmm. And it's the mainstream popularity of this album might be the downfall of Kings of Leon, even though they had some amazing albums after, but for themselves might have technically been the downfall. But let me put this in perspective here. This is how crazy, how big Only by the Night is. Youth and Young Manhood sells 940,000 copies. Aha Shake Heartbreak a year later only sells 910, so they do 30,000 less. And then because of the times, best-selling that they had at the time, had 1.45 million, almost 1.5 million sales, which is total of 3.3 million total for 3 albums. This fucking album, just first-year sales, and I didn't even look now because it's ridiculous, 6.2 million copies worldwide. So they sell more than double of what they did in 3 albums, just for this album.
Whoa.
And like I said, here's another kind of cool thing. For the top of all 2000s, from like literally so far, like I think from 2000 to 2009, for the decade I should say, it literally ended at number 25 for best albums of all time, highest selling albums of all time. And to kind of put it in perspective, number 26, the album behind it, which was only 6.1 million, was Green Day American Idiot. That's a fucking phenomenal album. Number 24, the album in front of that, was Kelly Clarkson's Breakaway, which is also one of the greatest. And she's got a diehard fan. So like, and not to be funny, the number one selling album, just to kind of say this out here, just the number one selling of the decade was number 1 was NSYNC's No Strings Attached, which came out on 2000, which had like 50 million fucking downloads or whatever. So it's clearly huge. But so certifications real quick, not to even be boring. I know it's kind of boring reading it off, but like for you and I, it's really cool to kind of see how big this fucking album was. 10 times platinum in Australia, 10 times platinum in the UK. Freaking, I think it sold 4 times platinum in Canada. Or actually, I skipped some. 10 times platinum in Ireland and New Zealand as well. But then it's 4 times platinum in Canada and Denmark. 3 times platinum in Germany. And actually, in all of Europe, it's 3 times platinum, which is fucking ridiculous. Because it goes by like how many people buy it in the place. So like, to be not to be funny, but like it's 10 times platinum in Australia, which sold 700,000 copies. But in all of Europe, it's 3 times platinum, selling 3 million copies just in Europe alone. So that's more than double. That's literally half of what it sold altogether.
Damn.
2 times platinum in the U.S., 2 million sales. And then in Australia and Belgium, it's both 2 times platinum. And then it's platinum. It makes it platinum in South Africa, Poland, Netherlands, Mexico, and of all the Middle East. Mind-blowing. Middle East can't even understand us, and they're out here listening to Kings of Leon. Fucking mind-blowing. It's fucking mind-blowing. I'm not even joking. Like, this album is so fucking ginormous, dude.
It is.
And then, here's some cool ones. It got nominated for, these are the Grammys it got nominated for. Best Rock Album, which it lost out. It came in second. Lost out to Coldplay's Viva La Vida or Death and All of His Friends, which is a phenomenal album. But honestly, it actually outsold that album.
I don't care. I'm biased. I want.
Well, yeah, me too. But that is a really good album. Just like, and Coldplay is one of the biggest bands ever. So it's kind of just to show how it even lost. And they shouldn't even have been here in their own mind. They like honestly shouldn't have been there. So. And then for the Teen Choice Awards, it was nominated for Best Group Album, which I mean, Teen Choice Awards, whatever. But for them, it's a huge deal.
Hey, that's a dub.
And they lost to Paramore.
That's a dub.
They lost to Paramore's Riot, which is a pretty phenomenal album, but it's... Come on now. Kings of Leon's better. But here's what it wins. This is what's kind of cool. So I'll start off with You Somebody. It won... This is all what it won right here. It won Record of the Year, Best Rock Performance of the Year, and Best Rock Song of the Year. And it was second place on Song of the Year. And guess what the song was that won, that beat him out? It was second place on Song of the Year out of all songs. It's a lady song, I'll give you this. It's a Beyonce song, how about that? So you know it's Queen Bee, so she's going to win it regardless.
2008. To the left, you're irreplaceable.
Oh, single ladies.
Oh,
single ladies.
ladies.
Single ladies beats that out, which I mean blew it out of the water
Wow.
on sales. But like that just shows you how good of a fucking song, like how good a song you somebody is. But so the wins for the total album, the Brit Awards gave the best international album, which beat out Coldplay, all these different ones. The Meteor Awards, which is Ireland, best international album. The UK's big award show won best album of the year of any genre. And then it wins in Canada's Juno Awards, which is also a big thing as the international album of the year. So it wins all over the world, and actually has a bigger impact in international and all over the world, like globally, than it does in the U.S., which is fucking mind-blowing, dude. So if we probably go to the U.K., or we probably go to Ireland, or we go to any of these other like countries and stuff, they're going to probably, that's where we're going to meet the people that are going to be like, oh, Kings of Leon's my favorite band ever. So like that's why they tour a lot in the UK and stuff.
Oh, I noticed that, but
it's so
now
crazy.
It makes sense why they do.
I never knew that either. So like, dude, literally, this already has more awards and everything than any of the albums we've done ever, especially international. It's the biggest international album we've ever done. Like, dude, I couldn't imagine them. They just released an album year before, only 1 million copies in total. They had 3.3 million worldwide in 3 albums, their first 3 albums. And then they dropped this one not even 8 months later after because of the times. Blows up. 6.2 million copies sold worldwide. Like, it's honestly no shock that they get that big and they kind of get that scared and they kind of get like the anxiety and they deal with all that stuff. Like, it's really no shock to really say that.
No, it's not. I mean, when you go from just like struggling, trying to like get your name out there and stuff like that, and then it goes from, I can't even imagine what that's like. You go from like literally playing in bars, to playing stadiums and selling them out.
And not only bars, but
bro,
basically
I'd walk
only
out there, I'd be
local
like,
bars.
Let's fucking head out, bro.
Well, there's actually a lot of interviews at the time where actually it's very famous. One of their first shows ever after this album drops, and I think it was either in Texas or it was in Tennessee. It was one of those. I want to say it was Tennessee. I think it was hometown. They had such a big like show up for their album or whatever, for their concert, that Nathan, the lead singer, actually had to, like, he said that he had to leave to go backstage or whatever to get a drink of water or whatever. He never came back out. They had to cancel the show. He was so nervous. Couldn't even come back out. That was how big they were at the time. Like, just fucking mind-blowing. That's why when I ask you, like, after hearing this now, that's why I think they missed it by just a couple years, because that's how big they were then, and that's still rock. People are blowing it up, and especially alternative rock, which we know a lot of alternative bands that never make it.
Unfortunately, I think a lot of people that don't know about their newer stuff, or I feel like people think of them as the one-hit wonders.
I will agree. I 100% agree.
Which makes
me
sad.
Well, 2-hit wonder. Sex on Fire and Use Somebody. But, like, you can kind of consider that a one-hit wonder. I do agree with you. Or that mainstream, they're just the mainstream wonders, you know? So
yeah, but they have plenty of songs.
And I'm not even going to sit here in front and act like I knew that this charted that good. I did not know. I knew Sex on Fire and Use Somebody clearly had to chart well. But, like, for you and I, just because it was probably recency, or not recency bias, I shouldn't say that, but, like, at least biased to Use Somebody because it's the first song we listened to. Like, I'm not shocked that was, like, such a big deal, but I didn't know Sex on Fire was even bigger than that, technically, internationally. I did not know that.
Yeah,
like, worldwide, dude, I had... But I had no idea this album was that big.
I was always under the impression that no one knew who they were.
Yeah, I thought maybe, not to even be funny here, I thought maybe 2 million copies sold. Like, honestly, not even being funny. And that's a good thing.
I just had no idea, man. That is...
They literally, dude, this album is so good. By the way, for in the UK as well, it's the first album ever to get over 250,000 of it downloads or copies sold.
Wow.
First album ever. And it ended up selling, 3 million? Mind blown. Blew it out of the water. So in the UK, nobody has ever bought more than 225,000
even when the Beatles were a thing?
Yeah, swear to God, because they didn't sell the like copies like that at the time. It was like literally... Was it vinyls and stuff, and people that couldn't get their hands on it because they didn't have that many. You couldn't even sell that many. So
I gotcha.
The resale, like if
back then.
No, don't get me wrong. They're still number 25 for most albums sold that year in the decade. But like, I'm not joking. Out of the 100, because it's a 100 list, the most albums sold or whatever. I think if I remember counting correctly, I think 34 of them were greatest hits of people. So like Michael Jackson's greatest hits, Bruce Springsteen's greatest hits, like a lot of like the most iconic, the Beatles, all these most iconic people that have just greatest hits. That's what they literally still made it to number 25.
Wow.
All that in the decade, which is ridiculous, dude.
Oh yeah.
Like it's mind blowing. But all right, so we're pretty much wrapped up with this. I'm just trying to think. Do you have anything else you might want to say about this?
Yeah, there was something. So like at the very beginning of the podcast, you were talking about like all the different band members and what instruments they play and stuff like that. I just wanted to bring back up when we went to that concert, and they, after every song, they literally take a few seconds, but like they were all going to different instruments.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they all were playing those instruments. Like they didn't have. It's not like who am I trying to think of? It's not like a house band where you have like your main band members and then you got like a 100%. Bunch of random cats in the back playing shit.
100%.
No, the whole band played all the instruments.
All four, yeah.
And that blew my mind.
And even the lead singer, Nathan, and all that, like, it was really impressive to see him always be, like, guitarist, bass player, main bass player, as singing. That's ridiculously hard. Dude, this family is so fucking talented. The Follow Wills, shouts out to you guys. Like, I don't even know. They might never see this shit ever, but, like, if they ever do, like, shouts out to you guys, for real. Like, we don't even know you guys, but we love you guys just because of the music
awesome.
You made, and you guys inspired us in a lot of ways. And, like, honestly, that's the cool thing about this album, I will say, is, like, it's honestly, like, kind of like us. Like, we're almost to the age now, or, like, we're a little older, I guess, now at this rate than they were right when they released this. So they were, like, 25, 26, 27, you know what I'm saying? And then, like, the youngest one was 21, I think, at the time. So, like, we, too, are also going through the same thing that they were going through. Because, like, that's the other thing I'll read off real quick. Just, like, what the different songs meant and everything. So, like, for Crawl, it's actually supposed to, or Closer, my bad. Closer, like, for them in their head, they wanted it to be like a lovesick vampire. Like, they kind of wanted to be from that point of view, which is why it's so eerie and stuff. That's why it's so good. And then to re-listen to it, you kind of pick on that. And then Crawl, it's like talking about America, how it needs to learn how to crawl again before it can walk and whatnot. So, like, that part's really cool because even at that time, America's kind of going through it and all the gas.
Oh yeah. That was during
like,
the recession and stuff.
Yeah, hell yeah. So like, Sex on Fire, clearly, like, we're all humans, we're sexual beings. Like, that's a huge thing. Like, you always want to, like, maybe not always want sex, but you know, like, it is a big thing for humans. Nobody can even deny that.
Yeah, not everybody's like.
Not everybody, but as an average human being, like, that's how did we get here? You know what I'm saying? We had to fuck. You know, so like, you somebody, we're always like. Growing up as a man,
I'm sure if no one, like, what I'm saying is, if no one was sexual, I'm sure that song wouldn't have hit as high.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Sex sells. Whatever, they always say that in music, you know. So like,
you know, the people like to have sex.
100%, but like then they get vulnerable and they talk about like how they could use somebody. Like we all are dying. You know, we're all dying for that love out there and shit. Like I said, Manhattan. It's technically like it's kind of talking clearly about New York, but it's also talking about an island of many hills, which is why they came up with that. It was like a double, like, was it Ensemble or whatever, where it's like talk about New York being like the jungle of everywhere. Like it's like you can find anywhere in Manhattan, in New York City, like the actual city of it, like you feel like you can see any part of the world there, and also the island of many hills. So it works out together. It's really cool. And then Revelry, it's it's actually about them learning how to party and stuff, and like being so happy from like doing drugs and stuff at parties that like you ultimately get that that hole in your heart where you're like you're sad. You know what I'm saying? Like even though you're having fun, you like deep down you're sad. And I thought that was really cool because that hits home for a lot of us. Not to be funny, you know what I'm saying? Like because we're all, even though we're all out there partying together and stuff, like how many of us are actually out there drinking and stuff just because deep down we're sad, you know, or like smoking because we're sad. Like it's a lot of people we know. Clearly 17, like we said, 17's is. Yeah, it's clearly about a 17-year-old, but like we said, Notion is attack against band haters, and then I Want You and Be Somebody, clearly kind of whatever. But Cold Desert I thought was really cool because that one actually really hits home for all of us. It's the internal battle of men that are following their dreams and always being shot down by everybody around them, like saying, no, that's not cool, that shit's gay, like we like, no, you guys don't have a chance. Like it's their battle within themselves to trust themselves, and it's nice that they had all four of them to help each other, but like all four of them wrote that song together, and it's so deep. You know what I'm saying? And it's the longest song in the album, by the way, too. It's 5 minutes and 34 seconds, but it's that way because all four of the members wrote it. So like they all got a little piece of it, and they all get to like talk about it. So it's really fucking sweet to see that. And like we said, Frontier City. If you haven't heard it from this album, it's phenomenal, phenomenal. Please go listen to it.
Grade A.
And like he said, he described it perfect. To be honest, if you haven't heard that song, it's almost like you're diving back in again in 2008 Kings of Leon. Like, oh my god, this is it's totally an Only by the Night song.
Yep.
But like, it's one of those ones. Like, if you haven't heard it, you can listen to it probably 10 times in a row and still be like, wow, this is just nostalgic. You feel like you're in the album. So, but dude, any other thing real quick too? Like, regardless, dude, I'm really happy that you came on here again. I appreciate you. Seriously, man. I wouldn't have done this without anybody. I'd have kept this forever.
Well, I know we were supposed to do this a few months ago, and I just did.
One more. We're good, dude. But the only other thing I should say, the label that is under is RCA and the Control Group, and then the producer is I think it's Jaquire King, which I'm sorry I'm not very good on, but he's like the number one producer for Kings of Leon. He was really big for Shania Twain, and he also did Modest Mouse's first album, which I thought was really cool. And then
nice.
And then Angelo Petraglia, I'm probably saying this wrong, but he was a band member of Face to Face, which I have never heard of that band, but the band kind of like fell out or whatever, and he's always been attached to these guys. He was real good friends with them and stuff, so he's always credited as a producer on all of their albums, which I thought was really fun.
Whoa, that's cool.
So yeah, he's not really known or nothing. He doesn't produce any other album, but I thought it was really cool to know. Yeah, he strictly just works for them.
Cool.
And actually, he's a big reason for a lot of things that get leaked and stuff. He's kind of like their, not manager at all, but he is a big, like, yeah, I'm close to him and stuff. Like, instead of them talking, like, they'll let him say something for him. So, it's pretty cool. It is pretty cool, to be honest. So,
Sweet.
Seriously, man, thank you so much. I had a great time doing this. I told you it would be kind of quicker just because we're not breaking down and everything. So, real quick, though, just before we leave, let's just name a top 3 if we even can. Your personal top 3, if you even can. Because usually we do a top 5.
No, I can do a top 3 for sure.
We'll start at number 3. We'll go back and forth. We'll do a draft style, snake style, whatever. So we'll start with number 3 as your lead, like a number 3 song, and then number 1 will be your favorite. So.
My number 3 is probably Notion.
Okay, I like that a lot. I really do. I think after re-listening it, if I had to be fair to myself, I think Cold Desert's gonna make it as my number 3.
See, that's my number 2. Gold Desert's my number 2.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go Use Somebody just because I have to throw it in the top 3 because it was such a phenomenal song for us. And then I think we both agree number 1's Manhattan.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree with that.
That's my number 1.
Yeah, it's my number 1 too. We actually already knew that for each other because it's such an iconic song, and like we said, that was a song that stuck out to us when, or at least for me, I can only talk for myself, but I thought, like, I remember us talking at the time, like, re-listening to the album, clearly we heard Sex on Fire and Use Somebody, so when we first bought it and dove deep, Manhattan just stuck out to me. For the ear, it's just perfect.
And, like, so, for me, like, Manhattan is, actually, I said the wrong name, but I'm saying, like, Use Somebody. Like, I know that was, like, the first song I ever heard of them, and I was like, whoa, this is something I've never heard before. I like this a lot. But, like, unfortunately, Use Somebody and Sex on Fire, it's been overplayed too much on the radio.
No, 100% I agree.
And it's gotten to the point where it's like I've heard it too much that it's kind of ruined it for me. I'm not saying I hate the songs, but like I've just heard them so much.
Every album has those, for sure.
So for me, it goes Notion, Cold Desert, Manhattan.
Yeah, the only reason I put Use Somebody in is because I had to give it, due diligence and shit, like the respect that it deserves.
I gotcha.
Because if it's not for that, I probably don't buy that album. You know what I'm saying? Like, to be fair, if we don't hear
that's
it,
true.
So that's just the way it's like. It has to be. For
you.
Me, because I couldn't be lying to myself. Like if I had to go off my true personal favorites after years later and stuff, it might not be in my top 3, but because I do love Notion as well. I love Revelry as well. I love all of them. So.
Oh yeah.
And Be Somebody is phenomenal. I Want You is phenomenal. They're all phenomenal. All 11 are phenomenal. And if you want to add 12 is Frontier City. Frontier City could maybe even make it in the top 3 because it's so new to us.
Guess.
But hell yeah, man! Thank you so fucking much. It's been the Relistenables. This will be up for us here soon. Probably we'll do it I'll probably put it up in a couple weeks just so you know. But you guys will see it whenever the fuck it's released. So thank you so fucking much, Stephen Moustaris, Trevor Pfister out of here.
Yo.
Let's go.
Later on.
Woo! Bro, thank you so much.
Yeah.
That was dope. Yeah, I'll edit all this shit, but.
That was nice.